are raised at every single one of these summits requires a different approach, a different form of thinking, and a different aligning of strategies. The world is not short of strategies. The world is not short of ideas. What has happened is that the alignment of strategies and ideas is what is causing tremendous uneasiness in the policy framework. So after COP26, you heard, stop pumping the oil. And then 2 weeks ago, pump as fast as you can, but pay taxes. It's a dynamic environment we're living in. It is not a static environment. Therefore, it requires emerging players to form an alliance with like-minded thinkers. Otherwise, frankly speaking, the direction will lock us out of the potential for our own growth and development. And I'm very happy that my brother from Trinidad and Tobago is here. Trinidad and Tobago is a strategic partner in this region that has been in the business for as long as we can recall. And then their new potential. When we talk natural gas, not only Guyana and Suriname, but the potential of Barbados. And we have been making this very clear case. Do not expect resources to be kept where they are whilst we have pressing development challenges and development needs. I want to be very clear from the onset. This does not take away our credentials on the environment. No one can ever question the Caribbean. You see, these countries existed long before we found oil and gas. And today you see a lot of international media defining the direction in which the countries must go. But the countries existed before oil and gas. And earlier, our markets would have been better positioned. Our tourism product could have been better positioned. So is it the news of oil and gas that drives the media? Just a question, I'm just asking. Because the countries existed before oil and gas. So what we need to do at this stage of our development is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to strategize within ourselves with strategic partners in developing a regional approach to energy security. We cannot be locked out of the energy conversation. The potential that exists for renewables and for oil and gas is tremendous. And frankly speaking, must be part of our development architecture. And we must be able to confront this directly. We must not hide from this issue. We have enough credentials, as I said, on the environment side. Guyana, 19.5 gigatons of carbon, the forest store. let us assume what the IMF said, 75 US dollars per ton of carbon that we're supposed to get today, then we can start having a very serious conversation. But who's paying it? And let us for a moment just think about this. If the new policy direction is to starve new development of funds, because that is the direction. It's very difficult to get funds, and the population must understand this. It is very difficult to get funds for exploration now, because the IFIs are faced with challenges to get funds. It is made harder. So let us say that you starve new development for fund, and even the world goes on a new policy direction that tries to stop new development. Then what in fact we are doing is that we are protecting an existing monopoly. Because those who are producing will continue to produce. They have already benefited from years of operational revenues. So, what in fact we are doing is that we are going to protect a monopoly. Someone should answer this question. What is the formula we're going to use to reduce the production and decide who comes out first? Because if you go from a strictly business model, we have to take the least efficient assets out first. And trust me, it puts Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad, all of us in good play. Because you can't take natural gas out first. We have to take the least productive assets out first. But are we willing to answer these questions? I don't know. But what I know is that we have a duty and a responsibility to pose these questions. Because we have our interests to protect also. We have to deliver to the people of our countries and this region better education, better health care, better infrastructure, create the conditions on which our diaspora will feel comfortable coming back to their homeland. We have to give them, the future generation, a better shot at life. And that puts a big responsibility on us too. That is why oil and gas cannot be looked at in a one-dimensional way. We have to put together a development strategy that shows how the rest of the economy will be built out from the revenues that come from oil and gas. And that is why the region is advancing a very elaborate and ambitious food strategy. We have to be able to fund this strategy. Our climate resilience strategy. In Guyana, we have more than close to 600 kilometers of sea coastline to protect. We're below sea level. It will cost billions of US dollars. Who's going to find the resources? For a matter of fact, the developing world needs 200 billion US dollars for adaptation alone as we speak. Where are those resources coming from? Policy cannot be formulated in a vacuum of facts. is from factual dispensation that the policies will be meaningful. So we are proposing, I had a chat with Prime Minister Rowley, with Minister Stuart Young, President Santoki, and we are proposing to move rapidly on a regional energy strategy, to look at all the potential areas for investment, to bring investors together, bring the markets together, and to see how, as quickly and transparently as possible, we can unlock those opportunities. So by the end of the next quarter, investors can have a fair and clear understanding on what the energy strategy and energy needs of this region will be, and where the future opportunities, and what are we trying to unlock, so that you can have a clear direction as to where we are going. As I speak to you today, we have 3 crises facing inequality crisis. All of it we are faced with at once. As Prime Minister Boris joked in one of the Commonwealth sessions, every time the drivers are filling the pump, they're calling his name with beautiful adjectives in front. President Santoki, I don't know, but maybe we are facing the same challenge. But that is what leadership is about. Nobody said leadership is going to come in good times alone. But that is why when leaders embark on a strategic direction that requires difficult decision making, there is need for the population to come along and understand and get together. It is only if we confront these challenges together we'll be able to win in the end. So if you look at, you will see maybe a 69% increase. And the increase in natural gas is a 243% increase. Unfortunately, our sister nation, Trinidad and Tobago, that has tremendous potential, requires just one decision to unlock that potential and bring stability to the market. So natural gas, 243%. And if you want to know how important food security is linked to energy security, ammonia prices has increased by 63%. That is a problem now. We have a greater problem than prices. The worst is supplies. We have a supply deficit in the world. And these are the realities that we face together as we confront these challenges. So in the midst of this global crisis, CARICOM members like Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados with the possibility of natural gas, we have to come together to advance a solution not only for the region, but one that incorporates northern Brazil especially, and that is Guyana and Suriname must work aggressively. We have to remove bureaucratic delays and advance this project with dynamism and aggressively. And also, we have to work on unlocking our natural gas potential. Because that can contribute to rebalancing on the supply side for the region. And right here in Suriname, in a few weeks, We are hoping that a full strategy can be presented on energy, and that strategy will be made available. The second issue has to do with the challenges that this region faces. Slow GDP growth, continued supply chains disruption, rising inflation, higher fertilizer costs, the economic repercussions of the war in Ukraine, escalating debt to GDP ratios, lack of digitization is during COVID-19 pandemic. And if we can't find the resources to invest in these areas, our economies will continue to lag behind. The potential of energy security in the region undoubtedly is enormous, not only with the possibilities in Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Suriname, of CARICOM with 38 trillion cubicle, 11.5 trillion. Barbados, yes, the reported estimates significantly more than all that I've outlined as possibilities. And Brazil, 12 trillion cubic feet. Just imagine if we get the capital resources to do those exploration work and move into production, not only the contribution we can make regionally, but the position we can take globally. We can reposition this region globally. But it requires bold decision making. It requires one common strategic approach from all of us. And it requires us working together in policy formulation to advance this. Perhaps you will not forgive me a bit about Guyana. As you know, it is no secret anymore. And if it ought to be a secret, the media ensure that it is not. We have an estimated recoverable value of 11 billion barrels. That is proven reserve. 11 billion barrels. The country currently has the third largest and is expected by industry analysts to become the second largest deepwater producer. We had 31 discoveries with 5 discoveries for 2022. In April the 26th, the operator of the Stabroek Block, SO Exploration and Production Ghana Limited, announced 3 new oil field discoveries. This builds on the 2 major discoveries announced on January 5th, 2022. The government is working towards to form part of the auction. But we also have some opportunities that a regional strategy would allow us to examine. So we're not eliminating the possibility of an integrated regional project when we look at the plan. And we, with Suriname, on our combined ability to work with Brazil on creating an energy corridor and unlocking the potential and possibility for a series of manufacturing industrial development. And recently, Prime Minister Rowley was in Guyana, and we have initiated some discussions too, with the interests of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, working along with us in unlocking some of these potentials. I want to assure potential investors industry specialists that our approach will be a very open and transparent approach. Very open and transparent. Whichever direction we go in, that direction will be announced publicly, will be detailed publicly, and all will be invited. Whether locals want to form themselves in consortium, and we have seen the value of consortium, because the scale of development requires a different scale of thinking, not only from the government, but from the private sector. The scale of what is required requires a different level of thinking, not only from the government, but from the private sector. I want to make this very clear. It has to start nationally and then grow across the region, where private sector come together, bring their liquidity and capital together, and go after some of these opportunities. One of the important things that we have done recently is reinforce the ability for local participation through the local content legislation. Conservative estimates value local content legislation and projected at the end of 2022 to be around $650 million US. The direct employment cost is projected at about US $80 million. 67% of the total local employment is among skilled jobs and 13% in engineering and technology. So what our local content legislation allows us to do is to estimate the environment. So all investment in the sector, at the end of the year, we're able to measure the impact on the local economy so that people would understand what that impact is. And corporations would also understand what role they play in building local capacity and involving local content in their operations. This is very important for all of us. In the local environment, we have to have a scientific way in which we lay the framework for it to occur and in which we measure how it occurred and where it occurred. And that we're able to do now. So, let me not take up more of your time, but to say exciting times for Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and the rest of the region, Barbados, because I've said before, the prosperity of Guyana must rebound to the prosperity of the region. Very important. Must rebound to the prosperity of the region. That is very critical for us. We have to be careful in this new environment in which we are operating that we don't have too many stumbling blocks to delay the operationalization of those wells. Here in Suriname, I know you're in that phase. We have taken an approach in Guyana to get the production as fast as possible. Because the reality is the world is trying to get out of production as fast as possible. So if you want to maximize the timeline for the benefit of the resource, it's very simple analysis. You have to get the production as fast as possible. We do so in a safe, responsible manner, in a manner in which we continue to advance our credentials on the environment and a manner in which we bring sustainable, long-lasting development for the people of our countries and region. I thank you all.
Thank you.
President from the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency, my brother, Mohamed Irfan Ali, First Lady, our Vice President, Suriname, and all other protocols observed. Welcome once again. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Suriname, to the second Suriname Energy, Oil, and Gas Summit. As we gathered here today, the world is in turmoil. At the same time, efforts to resolve or mitigate the posed challenges do not have sufficient impact on improving the lives of people, the global economy, and the natural systems that support us all. Natural, but also human-made disasters are currently challenging our world. While we can do our best to mitigate the impact of natural disasters by taking the correct measures, agreeing the common goals, and concerting actions, much more needs to be done in terms of political and financial commitments to make lofty ideals become a reality. In terms of the human-made disasters and conflicts, those are in human hands and require the right mindset of our leaders to end those. Several significant global developments have provided for some severe headwinds in the past 2 years. These include the COVID-19 pandemic, which significantly reduced economic activities, the supply chain crisis, which materially increased shipping costs, the war in Ukraine, which greatly increased commodity prices, and the climate change crisis, as mentioned by the President of Guyana, is having severe impact all around the world. And we together must navigate through this world in turmoil and chart an energy and oil and gas course that will benefit our nation and take all these developments and more into account. Suriname has a long oil exploration and exploitation history of over 40 years. Mr. Eddie Jarab, the visionary first director of Staatsoli, State Oil, created together with his team a culture of believing in our own abilities. The first commercial production of oil resulted from this way of thinking. An imaginative view on how we see our future and the role we have to play in this innovative, solution-driven, and solidly grounded in reality. The future is now. We have a mature oil industry and are ready to expand to offshore oil and gas with a partnership forged over the years, but grounded in the reality of today's world. And for this, we need to have an honest debate, because starting the development of this newfound resource in Suriname and Guyana will require us all to make strategic and tough decisions. Energy needs occur in all aspects of our life, so it can be a tool for us to create that peaceful and sustainable economy and life we want. I see energy as the resource that will fuel and lubricate our societies to higher achievements. I see energy as a catalyst to facilitate food security globally. I see energy also as a fuel to transition into green economy. But we must be realistic in our approach. And yesterday, I had the pleasure of announcing the start of the solar power project, Suriname electricity system upgrade and expansions in our rice district, our western district, Nikeri. And this solar power project will help the transition to green energy, but also to fulfill the nation's demand with this green energy and improve the reliability of the electrical network. This is the first step. This why I also see energy as the facilitating force to strengthen our democracies, our independent and robust judicial system to support political stability and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, for 3 years, the COVID-19 pandemic changed our lives and societies, and now we have a new normal way of living with COVID-19, as it is a continuous threat in our lives. We have adjusted, and the price to pay was very high. The international order was unprepared for such a devastating attack by an organism we as humans couldn't see it with our naked eyes. None of us had a blueprint or a roadmap for this attack. The international community observed that solidarity and global cooperation failed in the first couple of months. From now on, we must also address this lack of solidarity and global cooperation. But based on the lesson learned, we agreed to make the transition to the new normal and to build back better. Let us keep this in mind, and that we should not continue to do business as usual. Otherwise, we haven't learned anything from the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the world continues to be affected by climate change and its direct and indirect effect and impact on our societies and livelihoods. In many cases, the cause of this change and impact is not in our region or country. Take my country, Suriname, as an example. From the last quarter of 2021 till now, we have severe rainfall causing floods. It was a decade ago that we experienced such extreme rain. The regular changing of seasons was interrupted. We skipped, as a country, a dry season. At the same time, we observe in many other countries similar heavy rain, but also severe droughts and heat waves. The world must deliver better and quicker on the environmental goals set in Glasgow and the previous climate summit. Ladies and gentlemen, the war in Ukraine must stop. But even if it had ended today, the impact would be there for many years. Our food security has come center stage as the war reaches thousands of miles away from our shores. Global conflicts between superpowers on trade, investment, and capital flows create distortions in the international trading environment and harm countries not directly involved in this conflict. These problems affect our lives and economies, such as higher supply chain costs, scarcity of essential goods, rising fuel and food prices, and ultimately inflation, leading to increased poverty in our societies. Ladies and gentlemen, but you may ask yourself, why I am raising these issues now at this conference? After all, you are here to hear my view on energy development in Suriname and our region based on oil and gas and how you can contribute, but also how you can benefit from it. The reason is simple. We need a change in our mindset and actions by recognizing, understanding, and acting on the challenges we face today, while we together are trying to create more equitable, prosperous, and peaceful societies. Let us translate the earlier mentioned challenges into opportunities for a new global order for improving the lives of individuals and society as a whole. And we can do that. Otherwise, you would not be present here today. And I appreciate that. I'm convinced you would not be willing to invest in our resource development without that stable political environment. I understand that your decision will be based on your country risk analysis, and we understand that. That's why in March of this year, we organized the Guyana Shield High-Level Security Conference, attended by more than 15 countries and many international and regional organizations. The objective was simple, but complex in execution. High-level security policymakers and technical experts gathered right here in Paramaribo. 2 whole days to discuss ways to improve cooperation, to mitigate as best as possible the security threats from illegal drug trafficking and international organized crime to illicit capital flows in this region. This time, it was a governmental level conference, but it will be followed up with meetings with security officials of international and national companies operating in this region. Sustainable development and growth will not occur in a politically unstable and unsecure climate. Another requirement in our approach to be successful must be the regional and the international cooperation. First, we, Suriname and Guyana, want a fair and equal opportunity to develop the newfound resources. No double standard and no extra conditionalities for our newfound resources for Guyana and Suriname, brother. Secondly, We must manage these newfound oil and gas discoveries well and effectively to steer our economies to the next level of development and delivery of common goods in a sustainable way. We must secure the lives of our next generation. We have created, in my country, a wealth and a stabilization fund that must be the financial basket for the future of our country. We are keenly aware that securing the funds for the purpose for which it was created also requires a government committed to being prudent and efficient in using those funds with checks and balances built in. Our natural ecosystem, including oil and gas, is God-given, so it cannot be claimed or owned by any government or any political party. It belongs to the people of the nation, and they should benefit from the wealth that's being generated. We have the responsibility to protect the good use of these resources. The exploitation of oil and gas will be conducted on an environmental friendly manner based on the international principles and standards. In our view, the income of the oil and gas will be utilized by investing in the present generation, but also for the future generation. Therefore, the Wealth and Stabilization Fund is instrumental to save a portion of the income for the future generation. Furthermore, the income of oil and gas will be used to develop the transition towards renewable and green energy, and also that this income should be utilized to diversify our economy and industry, to strengthen government institutions, and to invest in human capital in order to build a resilient community. We know that we can learn from our region's experiences and beyond how we can do this best, and possibly, more importantly, to learn also what we should not do. Ladies and gentlemen, Suriname is high forest and low deforestation country, carbon negative, with forest coverage of above 90%. We are committed to the goals adopted at the 2021 Glasgow Climate Summit and have submitted ambitious nationally determined contributions. At the same time, we have an obligation to our people to provide for a prosperous life, which requires utilizing all of our natural resources. So, preservation and conservation come at a cost. This balancing act between economic development and environmental protection is a difficult one. One which now the developed and rich countries did not need to make. Suriname is committed to transitioning to a green economy by utilizing the revenues from oil and gas industry, which we want to develop in the most environmentally responsible manner. At the same time, we must conclude that while we function as a sink for carbon emissions and provide oxygen at no cost to the world, we as people are not compensated for our efforts and sometimes sacrifices to preserve our natural habitat. Thirdly, we must work together. In today's interdependent world, no country on its own can sustain and develop an economic framework that provides for all required goods and services, for that matter, address the challenges they face. Because we depend on each other, most of our problems are cross-border. Fostering international cooperation and strategic alliances will be central to the success of our efforts. And I am pleased with the progress made, especially with our neighboring countries, Guyana and Brazil, and will continue these efforts of what we have named a beyond the borders integration process. We see substantial benefits in pooling domestic resources, mobilizing investment capital, creating efficiencies in applying and maintaining contracts for the supply of goods and services. Strong strategic alliances combined with the generation of cheap energy will ignite new industries, create regional opportunities, and guarantee a prosperous life for those living in those regions while adding sustainable revenue opportunities for the people at large. This new potential for the new wealth will affect how we will organize ourselves in the Caribbean sub-region and how the world will look at us. We must be mindful in this. In terms of politics and security elements, we must adjust regional perspectives to the new circumstances and accept that. The potential for diversification of our industry and food and water supply to the region and the world will necessitate a different look at our cooperation and integration efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, I had the pleasure to speak to the region's youth last Friday, and they will be our beacons to help navigate us to a better world. And on behalf of my country, I pledge 10 acres of Surinamese fertile land to a youth-led, modern, high-tech, climate-neutral campus where agribusiness and creative industries meet. That will serve as an incubator for research and development, a place where young people can experiment with new ideas, technology, and methodologies. The first tropical innovation campus where young people inspired by the tropical biodiversity of Suriname's flora and fauna can work on solving current global problems. I look forward to your financial contributions to making this initiative a reality for our young people, for our future. Ladies and gentlemen, fourthly, we must place all these issues in the context of a strategic outlook. Oil and gas cannot be an end in themselves. It is a means to achieve higher goals of creating stable, prosperous, and peaceful societies. For this, the short-term benefits must come from long-term strategic goals. And when defining this future path, we must be bold and ambitious. We must demonstrate trust in our capabilities. Therefore, I am here as President of the country to give you the guarantee that my government is ready to cooperate with the regional and the international community to partner with you in the oil and gas exploration and exploitation. My government is inviting the international oil and gas companies to cooperate with our state oil company to reach agreement on further exploration and exploitation and to do business in oil and gas. My government is also inviting all other investors to come to Suriname and to invest in the spin-off business of the oil and gas in close cooperation with the local content. The oil and gas strategy of my country will be part of the Vision 2060 strategy. Therefore, I'll establish very soon the National Commission Vision 2060, which will develop a roadmap towards where we want to be in 40 years and how we can achieve that. Part of this vision must be how to expand and strengthen our domestic capabilities regarding labor, services, and expertise. For this, we'll start discussions in the government and with other stakeholders about the development of a population policy that will cater to the new needs of our economy. We should not underestimate the potential of our diaspora in this regard, and I believe that with the right policies and the benefits in place, we can attract the right skill set to facilitate and support this new direction. Local content development is insufficient, and we also want to work towards value created and keep it locally. The Surinamese concept, and I'll emphasize on this, the Surinamese concept of local content must substantially benefit our nation and leave something valuable behind. But I'm looking at a wider definition of the local content. And I'm inviting also the Caribbean nation and also my friend from Guyana to look at the definition of the local content and how the region can benefit of our oil and gas. And I'm welcoming all of you. I'm welcome particularly my Caribbean sisters and brothers to benefit from our resources, and I invite them to invest and contribute as contractors and subcontractors in my country. All you have to do is register your business at our Chamber of Commerce and partner with a Surinamese company, and you will be the local content with all the opportunities in the oil and gas. So simple is that, my brother and sister. Suriname is open for business, ladies and gentlemen. Engage with the people of my country, engage with the business community of my country at this second Suriname Energy, Oil, and Gas Summit. Let us interact and work together, work towards a new and healthier world. I thank you and I wish you a fruitful summit. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency, Mr. Chandrika Persat Santokhi, President of the Republic of Suriname, for your passionate and insightful keynote address. Thank you, Mr. President. In preparation of the official exhibition inauguration, the VIP opening tour, and cultural reception, we ask the media now to prepare themselves and take their position outside. The media will take a position outside to prepare the coming of the President of Guyana and Suriname. After the media have taken their position outside, the President from Suriname and Guyana and the First Lady will leave the ballroom first, followed by the governmental delegation. So please be seated, stay seated. And let's wait for the presidents to leave first. We invite you to please stay seated, and we invite our other guests and delegations to follow in another 5 to 8 minutes, so it won't be too crowded outside. The official opening will be held by our President, His Excellency Mr. Chandrika Persat Santokhi, and His Excellency President Ivan Ali of the Corporate Republic of Guyana. So please be seated another 5 to 8 minutes, and I will invite you to follow the rest. We wish you a pleasant afternoon. Thank you.